Good morning, everybody. Another day and another set of results from Southern Cross. And as Southern Cross, specifically Sunday Creek, does, it surprises on the upside more often than not. And no doubt that's happened again here. We're producing 5 holes from Christina, and they're very important holes. Hole 235 specifically was the standout hole here that I'd like to focus on. This is the most westerly drilled hole, 300 meters west of anything we've drilled before. So from Christina going west. So key expansion to the west. We've talked about Apollo to the east, and now we're over more than 1.5 kilometers of mineralization between those 2 points, way more. We've talked about the system getting better at depth, and we're seeing those very high grades of gold at depth. Well, this is the other dimension, out to the west. And most importantly, it wasn't only the most and west direction, but it really showed the potential of Christina, because we drilled a 480-meter section from Christina through to Golden Dyke, and it really linked the two of them. So we're now seeing continuous veins all the way through, and the average of that 480-meter downhole intersection was 0.9 grams, with some standout numbers within that, no doubt, including 0.8 meters at 141 grams of gold. There were many key intersections, 7 individual assays above 50 grams and up to 496 grams. So there's some amazingly high grades that we're seeing there through Christina. Some broader zones, 8.3 meters at 4.8 grams gold equivalent. We saw 15 different veins intersected in that hole. So an amazing hole in its own right, but there was more holes drilled from that collar that demonstrated that westerly mineralization. All of the holes that were drilled out there had that very high grade. So there's some key holes in this deposit that we can reflect back on, and no doubt hole 235 will be one of those holes that we continually reflect back on as we started to grow the deposit to the west. We said a long time ago that our drill program was to increase the volume, to define the high grades, and to demonstrate continuity. And we've been doing that over the last year in spades. But this hole very much goes to the first 2 points, because it's in a new area. We're demonstrating increased volume with a lot more high grade zones found, and there's the second point, a lot more high grade zones. So we're defining those high grades to the west. So Christina starting to look like the very good mineralization we've drilled 500 meters east at Golden Dyke, and then another 300 meters east to Rising Sun. So it's just another body developing. Remember, Christina was not included in the March 2025 exploration target that we defined at the time, and we've drilled it a lot. This hole was well set up, of course, because we drilled perpendicularly to the rails of the ladder in earlier holes, and with 235 and the surrounding holes, we're able to drill parallel to the rails, but at a high angle to the rungs of the ladder. So we were able to stay in mineralization, and that's the way we've learned to drill this deposit. So increasing volume, demonstrating grade in essentially a new area, and it remains open to the west. It hasn't been closed off. These are the most westerly holes. So an extremely exciting result. It sounds a little crazy. We've got 11 rigs on the project to date, but it's not quite enough. We need to focus on lots of specific areas, and we're here to build ounces at the moment, so we need to focus on where we can best build those ounces, and they're in the highest grade areas. And we've just found another one, so we're spoilt with choice. We've got rigs across Golden Dyke, Rising Sun, and Apollo East at the moment, and definitely we need to plan much more drilling into Christina around these holes, demonstrating the strike length from these single holes of those rungs or the veins, and drill further west, which remains open. We have 2 rigs in the regional area from 3 to 8 kilometers away. So we've got the same system, that the rails of the ladder and the rungs, if you like a ladder lying flat on the ground going into the ground, the rungs being the mineralized zones. that extends for over 10 kilometers, and 2 rigs are testing that longer strike. We've got 68 holes currently being processed and analysed. So many holes in the lab. We're keeping up with the logging, and the lab's catching up with us now, and we've got to continue to work at getting that backlog down and getting it out into the market, which we are. There's a decline in progress. We're something like 80 meters down the decline now, and you can see that in front of you, that's really taking shape quite amazingly and rapidly. Ground conditions look great. Bar are doing an amazing job, our underground contractor. So much happening at this project. Over 100 people are at site and in the core yard. And notwithstanding, we're bringing another 12 rigs to go underground and at least 1 more at the surface. So we'll have 24 rigs by the end of the year, which makes it the largest drill out on a pre-development project globally as far as we can see. So building the project, building towards that maiden resource in Q1 next year, a PEA in Q2, and the decline being completed 1 kilometre and a little bit down before the end of the year. So stay tuned. Sunday Creek has delivered again, and there's no shortage of results coming to you as stakeholders. Underground, we shouldn't fail to mention that antimony is a key component. Approximately 20% on an in situ recoverable value is antimony, and we saw some very high grade antimony numbers in hole 235, up to 39.5% antimony over 10 centimeters, and another 20% centimeter zone that went 12.4% antimony. So some very high grades of antimony, which lead to telling this broader story above the ground. So we are going to be in Diggers next week. So we look forward to seeing our supporters across in Western Australia. That's Diggers and Dealers, that probably the preeminent mining conference on the Australian agenda. In September, Nick Mead, our manager corporate development, will be with me. We're going to be at Beaver Creek, which is probably one of the most important conferences and places to meet investors in the North American agenda, and equally the Denver Gold Show, which is for the larger companies, which will be also attending after Beaver Creek. So a couple of weeks in North America coming up for us in September. So a lot of opportunities to meet our supporters in Australia and overseas. And as we continue to tell the story of this incredible discovery.